I was really scared that I was gonna die.
Projected landfall for Katrina was difficult to predict, but most believed the city of New Orleans was the most likely spot. Unexpectedly, however, on August 28th, the storm veered north, making landfall at the Louisiana-Mississippi border and changing the lives of the people of Waveland forever.
And I said, wow, here it comes.
While some evacuated to safety, others stayed behind to face their fate.
And the mayor, the fire chief, and I all agree that we're not leaving our city.
The following are some of the stories of those that survived, in their own voices.
Hi, I'm Jay Trapani, Mayor of the City of Waveland, Mississippi, and I want to welcome you to our city, also known as the Hospitality City, and further known as Ground Zero for Hurricane Katrina landfall.
The Hospitality City of Waveland, Mississippi, located between New Orleans and Bay St. Louis on the Gulf of Mexico. Waveland is a small, close-knit community with more than its fair share of experience with major storms.
The day before the storm, I was boarding up my little house I had in Lake Shore and helping friends, and so I really didn't watch the weather too much. I knew it was going to be bad from other people, but I didn't know how bad. Figured I could ride it out, because the place where I lived made it through Camille in 1969. So I just battened down the hatches and stayed. Me and my little dog. I sent my mother to Bay St. Louis. She was 80 years old. So I put her in the car and she was mad because she had to leave. And the last thing I ever said was, I'll probably never see you again, Mom. And just being, joking with her. Little did I know.
And so FEMA comes in. The National Weather Service is there as well from Slidell, great people. They all said the same thing. Get your men, get your equipment, and get out. Go to higher ground because you're going to get a 30-foot wall of water here. That's what he said.
The water got so high to a point where we all had a collective understanding of we were literally trapped.
I didn't prepare to leave until the Hancock Bank manager, which bank held the city funds at the time, called me, and she said, on Sunday morning, she called and said, Lisa, are you going to get your books, your minute books out of the City Hall? And I said, why? And she said, it's headed right for us. And I said, I turned on the TV right away and I said, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Please meet us at the bank.
And I, along with those who've had the Gulfside experience, still mourn the loss of Gulfside. I don't know if you can imagine that water that came through the Gulf at Waveland hit our properties like a brick wall. I mean, the water was so forceful that it just completely devastated these 14 buildings.
I looked on the news, and on the news, I seen the radar of Katrina. It filled the entire screen up. And from past situations, past hurricanes, I knew that it was too late to get away from Katrina.
Since they had been safe from storms before because of their location, some, like Miss Lily, believed they would be spared again.
I live in a neighborhood that is an old neighborhood, one of the first neighborhoods in Waveland, and it's on the north side of the tracks. We live in a very old house that had survived many hurricanes and was always told that the water never crossed the tracks. So we were very comfortable staying because we knew we'd get wind and we knew we'd get water and trees down, which we'd had before, but didn't really think we were in for anything like Katrina ended.
While all residents had a choice to leave when evacuations began, others, despite the potential danger, like first responders, knew they were not going to abandon their city.
You know, when the storm was out in the Gulf just south of Louisiana, it had 160-mile-an-hour winds. And so this was the perfect storm for us to destroy the city, I mean, when I say that.
We're here at Hancock County EMA right now, and the military and FEMA and everybody else is bugging out, but we're going to stay here a little bit longer and see how bad it gets. Any last words, Billy?
Same thing I always tell you, Wade.
No?
No.
Okay, hold on. Miss Barbara? John.
We're approximately
Okay, apparently they can't take.
right up in here on the board. Right in this area right here. And that is about 21 to 30 feet above sea level.
We had put everything up, and we also brought a bunch of pictures from the house. The house is much lower elevation than the office, and we brought those in the office, put them on the counter. That was all the family pictures. About 6:30, loaded up my pickup truck with a chainsaw and tools of destruction for the next day, figuring I was going to be doing a bunch of work in the back of the pickup truck, and we drove across the Bay Bridge all the way down the beach. It looked like just a bad storm was coming. Nobody was on the road at 6:30 at night.
Like longtime Gulf Coast residents Chuck and Chef Chappie, most who had been in this situation before and seen the devastation of an extremely powerful storm, cautiously watched, waited, and prepared.
I've lived here all my life along the coast, Mobile, New Orleans, and Mississippi, this coastal within 100 miles. And I've probably been through 50 hurricanes in my life. Camille, Betsy in 1965. I mean, I've launched my boat in Elysian Fields in 1965 to get people in Gentilly in 1965. I had a 14-foot wooden boat with a boat I went to get my uncle who was in Gentilly on the roof. So this is not such an odd occurrence for us down south. It happens quite a bit, but at the same time, not of this catastrophic size. This is the difference in this storm. Katrina was the biggest, baddest mother I ever have seen, been through, or ever witnessed, Camille included. I mean, Camille was the 100-year storm before Katrina. Now we got a new one, you know, so that's the new benchmark of hurricanes is Katrina.
Before Katrina, the benchmark for a perfect storm on the coast was Camille, which occurred 36 years before. Although a stronger Category 5, Camille was dwarfed by Katrina's immense size and powerful surge. Katrina's trajectory also was much more erratic, ultimately ending in an unexpectedly sharp turn toward ground zero, Waveland, Mississippi.
Woke up the next morning and the wind started to blow. I don't know, I guess it was right before daylight. And so I started looking out the windows and I got a phone call, and it was a fellow I worked with, and he said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at home." He said, "You better get out of there right now." He said, the eye of it's in the mouth of Pearl River, whatever. So as soon as he said that, I looked around and looked for an exit where I was going to go if the water got too high. So there was a big building down there. I figured I could climb up in the rafters if I had to at that point. So it's just got progressively worse, the wind. So I looked out the window, bedroom window, towards the beach. And I saw the first little trickle of water come down the center of the street. And I said, wow, here it comes.
survival mode was a feeling that I've never really experienced before. But in that time period, survival mode was a cutting off of any other emotion that I can feel. I didn't care about anything. I wasn't scared because I didn't have enough time to be scared. I literally was in fight or flight mode, and I was in fight mode. I couldn't freeze, I couldn't run, so I was in fight mode. And this mode made me focused on doing the job that I needed to do to survive.
When I tried to get out of the car, I moved it up on the sidewalk, and I was trying to get out, and the wind was blowing too hard, and I was trying to open the door, and I couldn't open the door. My papa was just staring at me. He didn't know what to do. But so finally I got the door open, but the water had come up to about my calf at that time. And that's when we started seeing, like, it started white capping in the parking lot. So that's when, I'm assuming that's when the wall of water hit. Furniture started floating. We put my grandparents in the stairwell because it was a two-story, because the roofs were starting to the shingles were starting to come off the roof, so it was kind of leaking upstairs. So we didn't want them to get wet, so we put them in the stairwell. And we had to move my pregnant aunt into the stairwell as well. Hope she didn't go into labor from the pressure dropping. And the refrigerator almost fell on my mom at one point, but we just kind of waded through. I mean, you know, I was scared. I don't know how to swim. I still don't. So I was really scared that I was gonna die.
Those are the streets that are already underwater, which they haven't added to that list. Doesn't matter because it's all going to be underwater.
If the storm had occurred at night instead of during the day, the fatalities most certainly would have been higher. Because they were able to see their surroundings, folks like Brian had a much better chance of trying to save themselves.
So I looked down one more time. I heard a big wave crash, and those steps that my mother went down, I could hear the nails just pulling away, going, and it just ripped out and blew the wall out. And those steps ended up behind this building right here, standing straight up. It was the weirdest thing you ever wanted to see. And when that happened, I grabbed the little dog and I said, "We got to go, Rock." So I picked up a window, got out the window, opened it up, grabbed the little dog. As we were climbing onto the roof, the building just started to collapse into this other building right next to us. And as it did, the momentum threw me out in the backyard into the water. And the water was chocolate, hot, just steamy hot. And about that time, here comes the lid off of an ice chest. I grabbed the lid. I put little Rocky on the lid, a little black chihuahua, and he's floating with me, and we're behind the building, and we get the wind's pushing us into the main, onto Coleman Avenue. The wind grabbed that little tray lid and slung Rocky and flipped him over, and I just did grab him in time. And as I did, we just started getting pushed down the road. And as we did, I could look back. I saw the city hall collapse. I saw these other buildings collapsing behind me. And so I said, you know, you don't really have time to think at that point. You just react. So as I'm coming down the street, right about where, before you get to that little bar room, I noticed a big wall of debris. And as I'm getting ready to approach that, me and the little dog are huddled up, and I said, I can't go around it. I can't go over it. I'm getting ready to get slammed into it. So as I did, I said, let me look behind me and make sure there's nothing gonna pin me. So as I looked back, all I could see was water. And when I looked up, it looked like as high as that telephone pole. Water was just coming right at me.
The once thriving community of Waveland, Mississippi, now reduced to an unrecognizable and uninhabitable terrain.
This is looking north on Coleman. Ricky's bar was over there and Dempsey's restaurant on that side. As you can see, there's nothing. And I'm almost to my house, or where it used to be.
I went to Bay St. Louis looking for my mother, who stayed on the beach in Bay St. Louis, which was a higher elevation. So as I got to Washington Street, which ran from Central to the beach, I noticed there were still houses and stuff intact. So I said, oh, this is great. They didn't get it as bad as we did. So as I go down Washington towards the beach, as I got closer, I saw a big open void where that big two-story building was that my sister and brother-in-law used to live. And they had their store underneath, and there was nothing there. And nobody wanted to tell me that what happened, you know. And so as I'm making my way back, when I saw that big opening, I knew something bad had happened, so I just turned around. And as I did, I came upon a little side street, and I saw one of my nephews, the same one that brought my mother to Bay St. Louis. And I said, buddy, is Mom all right? And he said she didn't make it.
For those that survived, what now? What had been taken from them? Not only in personal property, but also what had been taken from them emotionally. Total estimated damage from Katrina, $125 billion. Total damage in Mississippi, $81.2 billion. Total fatalities from Katrina, 1,833. Total fatalities in the state of Mississippi, 238.
My wife and I decided a long time ago, if it's a Category 2 or greater, that we should leave. That's what's best for my family. And I think all the citizens of Waveland should consider leaving on a Category 2 or greater.
Many of the streets weren't cleared until days after. And then you drive down these streets and it was just, you couldn't tell any houses. Most, south of the tracks, most everything was gone. Let me put it this way. Here's the beach. Here's the railroad tracks. Everything from the water destroyed everything, all these thousands of homes, and pushed it up against the railroad tracks. One of them ended up on top of the railroad tracks, completely demolished, but it was on top of the railroad tracks.
We made our way to the railroad tracks, and we stood on the railroad tracks and couldn't believe what we saw. It was just a ocean, a field of just things just you wouldn't believe was in there. Boats, trees, houses, people's belongings. So we made our way.
Appliances.
Oh yeah, there was appliances, cars. So we made our way to the school here. We had to go all around the debris, so it took a while to get there. And it was dangerous debris. It was jagged lumber and jagged trees. So we finally got here, and I sat across the street, and I couldn't believe what I saw. There was just nothing here but a pile of debris.
With the hospital had 5 feet of water go into the emergency department. All the operating rooms were closed. I had gone up there on Sunday to offer my services. Anyway, I never did hear from them. And here in Waveland, I was able, with getting medical supplies, to go around on my bike and inoculate people for, as far as tetanus.
I guess for me, I was just out of college. I had just graduated that May. And I was full of like hope and optimism about my future. And it took it away from me. You know, it took away my childhood home. You know, I drove by it almost every day for 2 years when I worked in Picayune. And you see the empty lot where you grew up, you know, all the time. And, you know, now it's kind of easier a little bit. But, you know, I have a nephew. I can't show him where I grew up. I can't show him my bayou that we used to go, you know, play in. For me, those are the memories that I can't give him. I guess you'd say I don't have kids of my own, so, you know, maybe that's part of the reason why I don't want them. Maybe, you know, I don't want them to go through the struggles I did, or I can't show them my childhood. Like, my whole hometown is gone. I mean, you know, I can't show that I can't, and sometimes I can't remember what it used to be like, and that's scary. You can't remember landmarks. You can't remember anything. You know, I don't care about the personal things I lost, you know. My family was alive. My friends were alive, but, you know, I feel like I lost, you know, my childhood and my whole optimism for life whenever that happened. You know, I was ready. You know, you can get out of college, everybody's like, the world is your oyster. Well, they don't tell you about things like this. And so I wasn't, you know, prepared in a lot of ways for it, you know.
We have to continue the spirit of Gulfside, and we will do whatever it takes to keep that spirit alive. Right now we have only that open air chapel on the grounds, but we do one day hope to build a ministry center and provide all of those activities that we were able to provide then when we had all of those buildings on the grounds at Gulfside.
But even in the midst of such devastation and tragedy, there was hope. Hope in the form of endless volunteers from across the country. Churches, nonprofits, utility workers, individuals, organizations, all coming together to help restore the people, the land, and the spirit.
I think I think I probably was in shock through the hurricane. But in the aftermath of the hurricane, I think the thing that bothered me the most was not the loss of things, but the fact that we were isolated and unable to be with anyone. Our children didn't know we were alive. We were totally isolated, as though we were living in the wilderness in another century. It was very eerie, and we put our noses to the grindstone and rebuilt, because that was the only thing to do.
It still grabs me today. The police, the power companies, the people bringing help. They didn't have to. You know, they were there, and it wasn't just the ones like the power company, but I mean, you could tell when somebody was destined for the Gulf Coast, they were loaded up. They weren't taking stuff out, but I mean, those people coming into the area, get your attention.
It humbles you a lot. And everyone around here was humbled, I think. Nobody cared about wealth or status or anything like that. We were all on the same level for a short time. We were all at ground zero.